yourself and your consumer about the ingredients. So hot new innovative ingredients in med spas and practices is our topic today with Terri Wojak. And I'm really excited to have her here because what's in your product matters for yourself, for your patients, the key ingredients, reading the labels. Okay, you're reading the labels and you think that because vitamin C or hyaluronic acid or vitamin A is the 19th ingredient, that it's the key ingredient. Well, stay tuned and you'll learn more. But your products matter and consumers need to know. They want to be proactive. They're doing a lot of research online these days. And millennials, well, what do they want? They're looking for immediate results. We all want immediate results. So the hot ingredients, we're going to share our pearls today with Terri Wojak, and I'm so glad you're here to join us. And stay tuned to every week we have amazing speakers. Terri Wojak is a special speaker today and a good old young friend and an author and the owner of Aesthetics Exposed Education. And she's an educator, as I am, so we always get along great. We've written books, we've done duos with our books together, and she's highly sought after professional after 20 years of experience. And she's respected as an authority, and people do listen to her. They pay a lot of money to go to her courses. And she's built more than 50 courses. I know she's working on a whole new series right now, so it's probably not even counted in there. But she's had at least 100 articles, if not more, and a couple of really good books. Mastering Medical Aesthetics was in 2009. Aesthetics Exposed, Mastering Skincare, Medical Settings and Beyond. So Terri has trained over 5,000 estheticians and medical professionals. So it's really important to incorporate education on products and ingredients and sales with putting together a whole package of your brand and who are you? What's your extended brand? Your extended brand could be your product line. And we're going to talk about that today. And so I want to bring on Terri Wojak now.
Thank you for having me, Cheryl. It's such a pleasure. Love working with you and your company.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. So today we're here to talk about the hot news sharing, pearls and topics. And you and I are always going back and forth on ingredients. So it's exciting that we could do it live today. But you can't always believe what's on the front label, what's on the label. And I know that there's a fine gray line of what you can say and what you can't say about a product, because the FDA, from what I understand, is not really involved in the cosmetic arena like they are not involved with nutraceuticals. You just have to be careful what claims you make. So let's talk about the label and the FDA. I know that the FDA has a newer monograph they worked on for years for SPF. So SPF is in its own category. Prescription is in its own category. Today we're talking about, I guess I would call them nutraceuticals, cosmeceuticals.
Most people call them cosmeceuticals, but yeah.
Okay, great. So we're going to talk about the front label. What are the restrictions? Because we're going to talk about private label and private branding as well. So somebody now wants to put together a product line, or they're buying into a brand name line. And what do they look for?
Well, first, it's very important that you don't say things like getting rid of wrinkles or stimulating collagen production. Things like that on the label are considered false claims. If they don't have clinical studies behind them and they're not a drug, considered a drug by the FDA, then we can't make claims on there saying that it's going to change or mitigate anything in your skin. So really, when you're talking about your products, you want to talk about improving the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, helps calm down the side effects of acne. Things like that are going to be okay to use. Helps calm down the visual effects of acne, things like that. So first of all, that's really important that is on the label. So it's really important that we're following regulations and that people aren't making false claims to begin with.
So that has to do with not only the estheticians and the skincare society, nurses, or the physicians. Doesn't matter who it is. It could be anybody. It's the label that we're talking about. It doesn't matter who's behind it. Is that correct?
Exactly. So it's the label and it's from the FDA. So everyone calls their products cosmeceuticals. Cosmeceutical, the FDA allows the use of this term, but there's no special testing or anything for the term to be used. So a cosmeceutical is basically a cosmetic with pharmaceutical-like ingredients in there. So the problem is everybody's now calling themselves a cosmeceutical, so it kind of took down the validity of the name. So,
what were they calling themselves before they used cosmeceutical?
I'm not sure. I think just cosmetics or maybe nutraceutical. But I know that most people either call it a cosmetic, a medical, or a cosmeceutical.
Okay, I mean, cosmeceutical is what you hear every day of the week now. I mean, at least in our world. Yeah. And I know that we get calls from friends, from practices, from estheticians, from nurses. What's the new trend? What's a new hot ingredient? Doesn't always mean it's great. You know, somebody's talking about mushrooms, somebody's talking about green grass, putting it into your, you know, I mean, there's every day of the week I read something else, and it's all in the marketing. It's how you market the product, how you display it in your practice, the merchandising. I mean, all of that has a lot to do with the product itself. I mean, you want it to work, you want it to smell good and feel good, and that's a whole other dynamic to maybe our next webinar. But you know, the truth is with the different age ranges. So the younger generation are looking for preventative. They don't want to look like their mother. Oh no, I can't look like my mother, you know, or I don't want to look like my grandmother. And then, you know, and then we also have the millennials who want instant gratification, instant facelift, look great without having that facelift. So, so how do you know which ingredients are good, which are bad, you know, for your skin? Because obviously everybody's skin is a little different.
Yeah, and I really think that's a big thing. Like most of these ingredients that are being used are good ingredients. You know, there aren't many bad ingredients out there. There are some that are on, like there's a dirty dozen list of ingredients that you should stay away from if you're concerned with like cancer and things like that. But mostly the good and the bad does have to do exactly with your skin type and condition, just like you said, Cheryl. You know, CBD may be great for somebody, you know, CBD is one of the newer innovative ingredients out there, and it has many great benefits, but it may work differently on somebody that's older than somebody that's younger. You know, in things like if you have oilier skin, you know, you're going to want or if you're prone to acne, you don't want really high levels of vitamin C. If you're prone to acne, you want more niacinamide. Like there are different ingredients and different percentages that you would use according to skin type and skin condition. So I really think it's important when you carry a product line, first of all, to really trust in that product line or trust in the products that you create and really get to know them and look up the ingredients and do your own research and come to your own conclusion on what you think these products can do. And then obviously test them out on clients and get feedback and things like that.
You can also go on and search each ingredient and look look for the studies that were done. As we know, in the aesthetic world, as well as everywhere else, you have to see who wrote the study. You have to know who's writing it. And are they the owner of the company? You know, and that often throws people off. When it comes to consultants like you and I, people understand that we're not necessarily tied to one line and that's it. You know, we all like certain brand name lines and we all like the private label aspect of, you know, creating your own line, your own brand extensions. I mean, somebody can right now, after this webinar, go into their kitchen and they could open up their refrigerator, as you and I talked about, and they can get some honey out, which is antibacterial. They can work on any oil that they have that they cook with and put it on their skin if they're dry. They could put yogurt on as a mask, or eggs. The yolk is good for moisture and the white is good for tightening the skin. So, or spot treatments. So, I mean, somebody can make their own products if they really wanted to. So one of the questions I had for you that I'm leading into is the natural versus the organic, because a lot of product lines say, oh, it's all natural, but is it certified organic? And how important is it that it has that stamp of certification of being organic? I know it costs the company extra money, it's extra work and time and effort. I know that we put together product lines, we develop branded, you know, product lines, so I know that. But I wanted to hear that from you.
Yeah, so basically, you know, just because something's natural, first of all, natural versus traditional products, just because something is natural does not mean that it's better. Actually, you know, some of these natural sources can have the ability to grow like mold or fungus or not be at their freshest. So actually getting them created in a lab is going to be more efficacious, and you're saving your natural resources. So, getting these ingredients extracted from a lab or produced in a lab is probably the best thing that you can do. Yes, some of the natural ingredients do work great. Like obviously, like we just talked about CBD, there's mushroom extracts, there's, there's gold, there's silver, there are many plant extracts that are wonderful. But I don't really say that you should go in your kitchen and start putting products on your skin, because you never know what you're actually looking for and what part of that product or that fruit or honey that you're actually looking for. Yes, Manuka honey is great for the skin, but it can be really sticky and everything too. And it has the antimicrobial, hydrating, anti-inflammatory aspect, but it's not formulated really to work on your skin. If you're using Manuka honey in a product, they're going to formulate it to work on your skin. And so it's with other ingredients that can help to support that Manuka honey.
And that makes a lot of sense. There's no question. But I know that you can go and put spot treatment or put a mask on. It might be gooky, it might be slimy, but it can't really hurt you unless you're allergic to it. Your point.
Yeah, it's not really going to hurt you. Yeah, it's not going to.
Right. So your point is well taken, that once it's created in a lab, and we work with like 50 different labs, as you know, so some of the labs work from basic formulas, and then they mix and you test it and they tweak it. Some will, some won't. Each lab is different. But hyaluronic acid and squalene are like two basic things that are great across the board for almost any skin. Well, at least hyaluronic. What do you think about those ingredients?
Oh, I think they're great. Hyaluronic acid is a staple in the skincare world. It holds over 1,000 times its weight in water. It's really going to hydrate and plump the area. So it's good for all skin types and all conditions. It's glycerin as well, just very hydrating humectant. We always need a humectant. With our moisturizers, we want to draw water to our skin. We want like an effective humectant, effective moisturizer, and effective occlusive to get the effective softening and getting rid of that dryness in your skin.
So when you layer, because I'm a layer freak and I try everything. When you layer, do you put your hyaluronic on first and the creams on top? I mean, how do you usually recommend it to your students or to your patients?
So I always recommend, general rule of thumb is always to go thinnest to thickest. If they're the same consistency, you're going to go clear to most color. So that usually you're putting your water soluble products on first this way, and your lipid soluble products will help to carry the water soluble products into the skin, because lipids are attracted to lipids, and we have those lipid layers between our keratinized cells. So that's going to help to carry in those hydrosoluble ingredients, the lipid soluble.
So more or less the oils that are out there, you put the oil on first, and then you'd put your cream on top. Okay. That's what I think, we've always recommended. I didn't know if anything changed in today's world when it came to products and layering. And I'm a big fan of that. But now products actually penetrating through the skin. So we know we can go and just put anything on our face. But if you go to your esthetician or your nurse or your physician in your med spa and you get a microdermabrasion, or you get a peel, or you get micro channeling, micro needling, you have any of the above plus Fraxel, different laser, components. Things will, I think, penetrate deeper if the pores are exfoliated. So tell us a little bit about exfoliation and penetration.
Okay, so exfoliation is really important because you have those dead keratinized cells on the surface, and our skin is meant to protect us. It's meant to keep things in and keep chemicals and bad things away from us. So it is meant to protect. So what we want to do is we want to use ingredients, products, or devices to help to drive those products into the skin. They say that only about 4% of the actual active ingredients actually reach the skin, and in normal when you're putting on your products alone. So one of the best ways I think for getting products into the skin is microneedling. And yes, you can do it in the clinic, like medical microneedling, but also there's cosmetic needling that you can do at home on a nightly basis that helps to penetrate your products more effectively. You get about 80% more product penetration when you microneedle the skin first. There are also things like iontophoresis, sonophoresis. You can use LED to help penetrate product in. So there are many different ways that we can help to drive products into the skin to get the most efficacious results. But the number one way at home would be the microneedling, the cosmetic needling.
I'm not be afraid to do microneedling. I'm not afraid to do acid peels. I'm not afraid to use scrubs. I'm not afraid to, but I'd be a little bit afraid to personally start with a microneedling. And, you know, some people, like, you know, as we talk about vitamin A, you know, if they think it's going to get rid of your wrinkles, they'll use it 5 times a day and dry out.
Oh, yeah.
Too much. So I'm almost afraid. I think the light therapy is great. And I know that professionally, the LED lights have come up high level now. And there's professional use to help to penetrate. And I do believe that the LED light is something that's great. And every med spa should have one. If you want to have an LED light at home, I think that's fine too. Because that, I mean, you're supposed to go an inch or 2 away. Is that correct? I think to the light, yes, to penetrates. So it really helps to penetrate the product into the skin.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, when there's all kind of excitement about like CBD, and we mentioned it before. I mean, is it real? Is it not real? I mean, and also there's oral. There's all kind of liquid, and there's drops, and there's other things that you could take, whether they're vitamins or CBD. Do you believe, and do you use any product, you know, every day?
So I just got some product from a company with CBD in it. I haven't started it yet. I have tried other CBD products in the past, and I felt like they worked great on my skin. The main thing with CBD is it's anti-inflammatory. And you have to remember that most of our skin conditions are created or triggered by inflammation. So acne is triggered by inflammation, pigmentation, aging, eczema, psoriasis, all of these are triggered by inflammation, sensitive skin, rosacea. So if you have a great anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, of course that's going to help. Now, the thing with CBD, we have endocannabinoid receptors in our bodies. So these receptors, when we get cannabinoids in our system, they help with appetite, mood, pain, inflammation, stress, skin function, all of these. And that's why a lot of people are taking these internally. So, you know, there are some things to look out for though. So you want to make sure, you want to see, you know, what type of CBD they have. You know, is it full spectrum? Full spectrum also has the flavonoids and the terpenes, which are both great antioxidants. They have those along with it. And then you can also get CBD isolates where they just take out the cannabinoid out of the cannabis plant. And that usually the isolates need to be in higher percentages to work as well. But you know, there's not a ton of clinical research on CBD and skin. There are a few studies out there that I found that show positive, promising results. So I think it is an ingredient to really look out for. I think the best from what I've been hearing from most people is its ability to work on acne because of that anti-inflammatory, and it controls sebum production.
And, you know, anti-inflammatory is across the board. When we go for blood work, they're checking for, you know, inflammation and metabolic syndrome and everything else that goes along with it. So it makes a lot of sense. It almost sounds like confusing. Like if I went to go buy a CBD now, it'd be like, wow, which one do I choose? Because there's so many. And now there's a crossover, obviously, with the CBD and the marijuana for skincare. So that's the rage. And I must get 20 emails a day about marijuana and skincare and how that's the latest and greatest. What's your feeling on that?
So that I really haven't looked into too much with keeping the THC into the plant. The research that I've done is that the THC is really, you know, we need to keep it under 0.3% to make sure that it's legal. And, you know, I've been looking up so much on CBD. I didn't really look up too much on THC and doing skincare and how it works on the skin. So that's something else that I'm going to have to look into.
Well, I mean, I think that's the future where
Yeah.
they're working on that now. Whether it's going to be good or not, of course, again, we got to look to see, is it somebody who owns, one of the big
Yeah,
franchises
exactly.
that's doing the studies, or are you and I agreeing that this is a great product and you must have it? So let's talk about the vitamin A, because that to me was the very first, and probably still is, one of the staple, it could be prescription retinoids in the cosmeceutical world. And that was always like the staple for wrinkles and wrinkle prevention. And again, people were abusing and using it. So I guess, it's like hydroquinone. After a while, like Asia, I believe in Europe, started to ban hydroquinone because they were using it at 20 and 30%, and people were burning their skins off. So the same thing could go for vitamin A, but I don't really know the latest and greatest on vitamin A and hydroquinone, and what your thoughts are.
So vitamin A, I still think, is the single most important ingredient for the skin. It is a skin normalizer. It helps to normalize all the healthy functions of the skin. So it normalizes cell turnover. It normalizes the amount of pigment being produced. It normalizes oil production. It, stimulates new healthy cell turnover. So vitamin A is still, I think, should be in, I recommend it for every single client. Even with acne, you need to regulate that oil production and get the skin working at its normal rate. So I do think that vitamin A is like the cornerstone ingredient to having good skincare, but there are many different forms of vitamin A. And like you said, Cheryl, people are going and they're using really high levels of vitamin A, and they're getting irritation, they're getting sensitivity, they may be going out in the sun with it. So I think it's really important to look at the different forms of vitamin A. I tend to use the lipid soluble forms because they help to penetrate better into the skin. They're not as irritating, and they still convert to retinoic acid once in the skin. And retinoic acid is the only form of vitamin A that our skin cells actually use. So with all of these all these types of vitamin A have the ability to convert to retinoic acid. So the lipid soluble forms are just more gentle. And I also recommend people to build up. So it's important that they're either starting on low doses and building up, or starting a couple times a week and then moving to every other night, and then eventually every night, so that their skin so their skin can tolerate the vitamin A.
So if it's a retinoid and it's a prescription, they usually come in a tube, but you can also get it compounded from a compounding pharmacy where they can mix it with some moisturizer. Because what I usually suggest is you mix the Retin A with some moisturizer, as you said, to prep the skin and get it ready, because to put it right on the skin, especially if it's a prescription strength. But in the retinoids over the counter, most of them are built in with a moisturizer, and they are sun sensitive. So you have to really use it mainly at night, and maybe use a vitamin C during the day or some peptides during the day, and we'll get into that next, and use the retinoids at night. Is that what you're usually teaching?
So usually I teach that, but in one particular line I use, the A, C, and E is used both morning and night because they use retinol palmitate, which is actually photoprotective. So that's a lipid soluble form that's photoprotective.
So that's something that you have to really look at and look at the label, because I know when it comes to the vitamin A and the prescription, that's only to be used at night, and it's to be photosensitive too.
Yeah, retinols and retinoic acid should only be used at night. Retinol palmitate, acetate, and propionate can be used morning and night.
Which is good to know. So let's talk about the peptides. There's nothing really so new about peptides, but now I know doctors, and I had interviewed Dr. Susan Merman recently, and we talked about how she got peptide certified. Okay. So I'm not even sure what that really means. I mean, I know there's a certificate for everything. I'll give you one when we finish this Zoom call today. But tell me about, peptides and why it's so big in the medical world that they are starting with peptide programs.
So peptides are great. There are three main types of peptides that are used in skincare. There are your signal peptides. So your signal peptides are like your matrixyl synth 6. These are the ones that actually, they signal your fibroblasts to produce more collagen. So they signal other cells. So they're going to go in and signal like repair, and they're going to help with the architecture of the collagen and elastin being laid down correctly. and they help to promote the collagen elastin production, and they also promote healing. There are your neuropeptides. Those are going to be the most commonly known one is our geraldine. And our geraldine, what it does is it slows down muscle contraction over time. So this is those peptides that they like to call Botox or no tox or Botox in a bottle, which you cannot do that because you can't compare yourself to a pharmaceutical drug. But these are ingredients that will slow down muscle contraction over time. And then there are carrier peptides that help to carry essential vitamins and minerals into the skin. A lot of those are like copper peptides.
So if somebody's using that great information about peptides and they're using their peptides every day, every night, 2-3 times a day, it can only penetrate, like you said before, a very small percentage at home into the skin. Because if you're not really exfoliating or microneedling, microchanneling, microdermabrasion your skin, only a small amount could really penetrate. So really, how much do you need to make it work, to see a difference?
So really twice a day. So peptides should be used twice a day. That's plenty to see a difference. I mean, even though it's only about 4% that actually gets into the skin, we know that it does make a difference. You know what I mean? So of course we want to get more product into the skin and more of those active ingredients. But morning and night is typically what you would do with most products.
And it's interesting because most people, when you talk about skincare, they think it's from like the neck up.
Yes.
Okay, only neck up, ENT. But what about our décolleté? What about our hands? I mean, to me, they're equally as important. What about your legs? So what do you recommend for the other parts of the body?
So I completely agree, Cheryl. And one of the things I'm really adamant about is people are not taking care of the skin on the rest of their body. So there are products, just like we use vitamins A, C, and E on the face, we should use vitamins A, C, and E on the body. Really bring back those antioxidants, that protection to help to slow down the formation of pigmentation that could have occurred from when you were younger that's starting to come up. It's going to help with crepiness on the skin, like it's going to help with like the loose sagging knees. So using, vitamins on your entire body instead of just like your great smelling moisturizer is really going to be beneficial. And especially, with my face, what I do is I do the face, neck, and décolleté, and then put it on your hands, whatever's left over. So I feel like that should be, your face products should be brought down to your neck and décolleté because those areas are really exposed to the sun, and on the hands too, if you have enough product to do that.
Well, I'm from your school because I do the same thing. But I have to tell you that people can get a facelift. They can use as much product they want on the face. But if they are aging, whether it's gracefully or not, the neck, the décolleté, and the hands show your age. So somebody can have a great facelift, use great products. But then you look at their neck, their chest, and their hands, and their age, you can see right there.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. And I think we as educators have to educate to our estheticians, our nurses, our doctors, that they need to start promoting that. Because most people talk about skincare, people think it's the neck up, or they're focusing on an eye cream, a neck cream, a lip cream. And there are multiple creams that you can use in multiple places. You and I know that. You don't have to use just a neck cream for your neck. I mean, it's not going to get rid of a turkey neck. We know that. But it's extra emollient and extra moisturizing around the eyes and the neck or the décolleté. And the other thing is, which we're not going to get into today, is the SPF. That's a whole other world with the monograph and the FDA. But wearing SPF every day, even if it's a cloudy, rainy day, how important is it? It's so important. I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing after washing my face, putting my layers on, that I put on, no matter if I'm planning to go out and walk or be in the house all day, because you're by windows, you might walk in and out. And how do you feel about that? And we'll just talk about it quickly, but we'll do another one on SPF at another time.
Absolutely. SPF is so important. I mean, over 80% of the skin's visible signs of aging are actually caused by the sun. So like you said, people are talking about visible light now. If you're sitting by a window, the UVA rays are coming in. So even though they're blocking the UVB rays that are going to give that would burn your skin, you're still getting those UVA rays that penetrate down to the dermis and break down collagen and proteins. So it should be just part of your morning regimen. It doesn't matter if you're just driving to work. It doesn't matter if you're not going to be out very long. It should just be part of your morning regimen.
Yeah,
Everybody's regimen.
I totally agree with that. The only other question I have, and then we'll move forward, is about compliance. So now we've recommended an AM routine, a compliance. So an AM routine, a PM routine, a once a week mask or scrub or exfoliant, whatever it is that we send somebody home with to use, or we educate, the providers. So the compliance is an issue because people buy new things, they'll put it away, they'll forget to use it, or they buy too many things, or they don't remember how to use it. So how do you get your patient, or how do you educate your providers to educate their patients to be compliant?
Well, it is all about education, just really telling them how important it is to use your product to get the optimal results. I also always recommend to use a prescription pad. So if you have one from the companies you're working with, or if you make one yourself, using that prescription pad gives that client, first of all, there's over 90% increase in retail sales when you use a prescription pad, when you hand the client that pad. Also, it's something that they can visually see, because a lot of times they do forget, okay, I have 7 products here. I got 3 from this place, 4 from this place. How do I use them? So it's really important that you put together a regimen for your client and really go over it with them and explain how to use it. Even something simple as how much to use. I remember we did a thing a while back with SkinCeuticals, or like maybe it wasn't SkinCeuticals, but it was one of the companies with the droppers. And, on TV, the client started like taking the dropper and just like pouring it on her face because she was never told how to use it. So little things like that, like showing your client, okay, you're going to use a pea-sized amount of this, you're going to use 2 drops of this, 2 pumps, really, because when they don't know what they're doing is when they're not compliant.
Right, and the truth is that if they're spending hundreds of dollars on a product, you don't want them to be using it up and saying, well, I used it up in 2 weeks, because then, they overused it. Most products should last at least 30 days, some 60, some 90. And then, and obviously you want people to come back in and refill. So the retail sales and retail products right now, even with COVID, has been booming across the board, because you can sell them in your practice or med spa, you could sell them online, you could do consults online and sell skincare products. So I just see the skincare world booming right now, almost more than anything, at home purchases.
Absolutely.
Because we're all looking at ourselves on Zoom, we're looking at ourselves on camera, we all want to look good, we want to have glowing skin, and some people didn't even realize how bad their skin looked. And then the mask, you're wearing the mask, and wearing the mask is irritating the skin. So I guess there's lots of reasons today now that you can go and start selling the products for those that are, listening, and start using some of these suggestions. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about a couple of private label versus branded ideas, because you and I both believe that, you should have a branded line, you should have a private label line of your own. And there's many reasons for that. One, because you can go on Skin Store, Drugstore, Anystore.com, Amazon, and buy product. You don't know the product. You're not sure what to use. Are you getting a consult? Are you being compliant and using the same product for a period of time to really see if it works? Because you and I know when you get a little tiny sample, you can feel it, you can smell it, but you really are not going to see a difference. And so just giving out samples and giving patients samples, to me, is a waste, because unless they really have an allergic tendency, it's not going to make a difference in their skin. It's not going to get rid of their wrinkles or their lines or their brown spots. You and I know that. So when it comes to bottom line benefits, when you buy a branded line, the average product, let's say, is $50 at cost to you, and you sell it for $100. That's usually the way it goes. Some people will sell it a little bit more, some a little bit less. But you have to be careful that the product line you do buy is not on the internet, because if it's all over the internet, you can get it at a discounted price. So somebody will spend 45 minutes with you, buy the product, and then go online because they could save $1. When it comes to the private label or branded, your own line, your own name, your own brand, this is a new brand extension. So there's lots of benefits, because you can charge whatever you want for it. So we've done private label product development, as you know, and you can spend 30 or 50 with beautiful packaging and be able to sell it for $150, $250, as much as you can get. There are hero products, which would be, your important products. So, if you're an ophthalmologist or ENT, obviously it's going to be something for around the eyes or the neck area, and then so on. So what do you think about the benefits of a private label versus a branded line?
So I think, like we said, I think it is important to have both. One of the things that I teach, which is kind of like off topic, but I teach personality types. And when you're retailing, yes, it is important to know your ingredients inside and out of the products you're retailing. It's important to educate your client on all of that. But also you want to kind of conform to the personality type. So there are some clients that want that, I want the tried and true that's in the magazine, that's on the, you know what I mean, that I can get with this pretty packaging. Or there's some that say, you know what, I want, oh, this is very exclusive and this is private label and this was formulated here, I want this. So it really, you're having something for both, you know what I mean, for both types of clients. So I think with private label, you can more customize, with your ingredients, obviously, that you would like to use. And then using a really strong line, again, like you said, Cheryl, it's not sold online, because that is a huge deterrent. So.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking in all of our businesses across the board for loyalty. So we want loyal clients, loyal patients. And so if it's a branded line and it's good and they're seeing good results, that's great. If it's a private label line and it's something that you've created yourself and you can actually promote it yourself by saying you helped to create this, which most of you have to put in, you have to give input in the product, you have to try it. We have you take before and after pictures of the skin. So it's really good to be involved if you do develop a product line and know your audience, because you don't want to create an acne product line if you're dealing with, adults who might have rosacea, which is adult acne, but they don't have acne. So you really have to know your patient. Is it hyperpigmentation and, the spots on the skin that we're trying to get rid of? If you're trying to hydrate the skin, people go into prescription strength skincare, and you have to be careful with that too, especially like when we talked about the hydroquinone. Any high percentage of that actually goes into your bloodstream. And I don't know if it's the same with vitamin A or not, but I know you have to be careful when you're compounding. So to your point before, working with consultants like us, working with labs, you can really get good formulations with the primary ingredients. And again, when you're looking at the ingredient listing, a lot of the time the vitamin C or the vitamin A is going to be 18th or 19th on the list, where if it's at the beginning, it's almost like when we go food shopping and we're looking at, the whole grain, or we're looking at where the sugar is or the fiber is. You have to look at the top of the list. And that's where it's going to be the most, of that vitamin A or of that ingredient. So if you're creating your own product, the lab and the consultant will guide you in that. And you can also have your own brand, your own label, your own packaging, your own secondary packaging, which would be a box or a bag, and create your own shelf talkers and so forth. So there are advantages. There's a little bit more work involved at the beginning, but once you have it, you just turn key. But talk to me about a hero product. What would you consider to be one of the top selling, like, hero favorite products right now in most of the med spas across the board?
Hero product, like a branded
product. What is it? An eye cream, a neck cream?
Like you said, it depends on the business. You know what I mean? Like somebody that has a lot of acne clients may have a hero acne product. Most people have like an anti-aging serum, I feel like, or like an eye cream. Neck creams are getting big now too, but really like, I feel like a strong serum with a lot of active ingredients in it and an eye cream are really what people are starting to do for hero products.
And, you're younger than I am, but when you say people, are starting to use it, is it that the younger generation, like the 20s, are using it to be preventative, or is that too young to start using an eye cream?
Oh no, they should start using eye cream right away. I think it's great for prevention. And I feel like consumers these days, the younger, the millennials and everything are really, they know that they need to start taking care of their skin. They're doing more prevention. We're seeing more clients coming in saying, hey, I don't want to look like this when I get older. what can I do now to prevent that?
So when it comes to options, obviously there's different levels of private label branding. There's white labeling where you just take a bottle from a company and you stick your label on it. There's private branding, and then there's custom formulation. So it's different levels depending on how much you want to invest and how important it is for you. So there's some with the white labeling that really won't cost you much at all because you're just putting a label on an existing package. But when you get into private branded or then custom formulation, then you could actually, it would cost you more money, take a little bit more time. But it's like anything else that you're building and growing. I mean, nothing happens overnight. But I do recommend, as I think you do, is like a branded line that you believe in and trust, and then your private label product line. But one question I do have, because we deal with a lot of medical spas and there's a lot of turnover with estheticians or skincare specialists, you know, over time. So we go into some practices and we see like 10 product lines because every esthetician comes in saying, I like this, I like this, I like this. Okay, great. But what is the provider supposed to do? They can't keep changing and bringing new product lines every time they hire somebody new. So what's your suggestion on that front?
I agree with that. I feel like there are some companies just have too many skincare lines. You know, I guess it depends on how many estheticians they have, and if there's an esthetician that's high sales and like in love with a line, but they can't just bring in every line that, you know, a rep comes in and says, this line is great. So it's really, really important to get that information before you choose a line. And I always say to always talk with 3 companies. So if you're choosing like a, your established product line, take, you know, do your research, take 3 companies that you think are the best and talk to each of them, have them each give you and tell you why their products are beneficial and why their products are better, because that is going to help you to make that decision so you don't need to keep changing down the road. Because clients don't like that either. If you have, you know, if you have a certain product line in and then you don't have that product line anymore and then you have something new, you know, so really getting to know that product line before you bring it in, making sure it's the product that you want to carry, and that it is, you know, a product that can be used for like all skin types.
I'm in agreement with that because if somebody new is starting work, whether it's somebody at the front desk or an esthetician, you know, or somebody who's doing treatments or sales or consults, and there's like 5 lines of how could they possibly even memorize the 5? It's going to take them so long. And that's what I often see happening, that there's so much inventory and so much money wasted. And inventory control is another thing we'll talk about another time, but there's thousands of dollars missing in most offices that nobody's even aware of product because somebody just says, oh, I'll try this. I'll bring this home to my aunt. I'll bring this home, you know, and I think there should be a strategy in the practices where they offer free product or they offer at cost to the staff. And in some places they don't do that. So, I mean, I think that would avoid some of it, but there's still going to be inventory control. That's important. And you have to know what you have and what you don't have, because you don't want to run out and somebody go to your competitor to go buy something or go to CVS or Walgreens to go buy a product. So I think that's a problem that we see across the board, that they're running out of product that are the big sellers. And why are they the big sellers? Because somebody's pushing that 1 or 2 products where it really should be. I mean, I'm a big believer in like a kit and a program where you can have 2, 3, 4 products that you start somebody off with. Yes, we all have filled bags and sold thousands of dollars to people where they go home with 20 products. But the truth is, how compliant are they going to be? How are they going to remember? Even you and I, if we took home 20 new products, we'd be excited and we'll try them all. I know that. But it's like after a while, it's not productive. So you're better off doing it in phases when it comes to the sales of the product. And what do you train as an educator to the providers? How do you handle that?
So I usually say the power of 3. So I always say to recommend, even if you have like 7 products that you want to recommend somebody, you would take your prescription pad, write down all the products, how you would use them, but then always highlight 3. There is some research that if you try to sell 3 products, most likely the client will take all 3 of them. If you try to sell a bunch of products, the client may only take 1 or get overwhelmed and take none. So I always recommend 3 to start out with. Let them know what other products they could use, but these are your 3 main products I'd really like to get you started out with.
And so when somebody's getting a treatment, and the back bar products that are being used in the back room, and that's another conversation, but do you recommend that those products be also the products that they're taking home, and the provider who's working on the skin is actually talking to them about those products at that time that they're having the treatment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like instead of getting samples, what I do is as I'm cleansing, oh, this is the cleanser. This is the serum I'm using on you. This is, this is great for antioxidant protection. It's going to help to brighten your skin. And then at the end, I say, okay, remember the cleanser I used on you? It was foamy, it was gentle. This is the cleanser I recommend for you. This is the serum, the one that has the antioxidant protection. So I'll go through and say, and show them the actual products too, what they should be using.
During the time of the treatment, just show them a bottle.
When they're done with the treatment. When they're after the treatment, then I'll show the bottle. Or if you're running behind, you can have the receptionist show them, have the products up front though, for them to see.
And then there's, the incentive for the front desk or for the esthetician or the provider to sell a product and be able to take home extra money or bonus or commission. So I guess now that I've thought about it, we probably have about 10 times that we can do these talks and have a lot to discuss, because there is a rule of thumb where it's at least 10%. Has that changed?
No. Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be.
So 10% really for estheticians, but sometimes receptionists, because people don't want to start fights between reception and, so sometimes they split the commission between the receptionist and the esthetician. Other times they'll do team building goals. So the esthetician would still make their percentage, but the receptionist, depending on how much they sold that month together, could get an outing or a day off, an extra day off, or gift card or something like that, or a product from the product company.
No, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and we hear about those fights all the time. It's my product, it's my client, I've recommended that. And so there's lots of ways to be able to handle it. You mentioned a couple of them. But that's a whole other, hour that we can talk about it. But I want to thank you for being here today. It was so great, and your information, your knowledge is great, and we've only, got the tip of the iceberg today. But we can do so much more, I think, in future educational programs. And I know that we have talked about Beautiful Forever University for years together, between our books, between our education. And it is a membership program, and we're going to have to talk about getting you involved in it for your knowledge of ingredients and product in the aesthetic world. I mean, right now there's so much education and so many new things coming out. We've just touched on it, but there's everything from marketing to consulting to business planning and strategy planning to exit strategies to staffing. I mean, there's so much to learn and talk about, and you have to keep up to date as we do with everything that's going on. So if somebody has questions, we encourage them now or ongoing. They can email me if it's something for you. I'll send it over to you for sure. But I think ongoing programs live, as well as, click on 24/7 and learn a topic, keeping them short and sweet. I mean, this might have gone over our 30, 40 minutes because you and I love, hanging out and talking together. But the truth is that, the shorter, the better, to the point, because nobody really has a lot of time. And a lot of people are zoomed out, well, depending on what state they're in and if they're allowed to practice or open up their medical spa. But we do like to, both of us, be educators and offer our information. So I do thank you for being with us today. We always offer attendees a special. So Beautiful Forever is known for strategy planning and consulting, which is on the next slide. And so we're offering a $300 value for anybody that might be interested. And I'll pull you into it if it's something involving ingredients and we need some expertise on your side. But I would like you to save the dates. Because we have Beautiful Forever University programs coming up every week. As a matter of fact, I have another one this week. And so the values and complexities of having a Wikipedia page, that's really something that nobody in our industry talks about, because it will be rare. It's not for everybody. I'm not sure you and I can get a Wikipedia page, but the truth is that it's good to know what it's all about, because when we look things up, Wikipedia is the first thing that comes up. So Robert Versteeg is going to talk with us this week on Wednesday about the values and complexity of Wikipedia, and are you a candidate, or what can you organize and put together over the next months or years to be able to have a Wikipedia page. And then we have everything from, reconnecting with your patients and targeting them with the recall reminders with Dr. Harry. And then we have a European aesthetic trends doctor out of Rome, Italy, who is a highly looked after, sought after expert in the cosmetic industry. And behind the fine print and engaging and closing with more patients, we have a guest from Care Credit, and she's a general manager. So that should be a really interesting inside, closing more patients, and what's really behind the fine print, and how do you make more money with using patient financing options. So, and it's great even for products, because whether you're bundling services and products together, and they're spending so much money, as we know, nothing is inexpensive anymore. Even the inexpensive stuff is expensive to some people. So bundling things together and making it affordable is really important. So I hope you can join us for some of those, and then you and I will have to get some other dates on the calendar. And
Absolutely.
I thank you so much, and have a great day, and look forward to hearing what's new next.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.